is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to do a smackdown between two $199 tablets. Both of them run Android. One of them runs Android Jelly Bean, actually the first tablet on the market, and that's the Google Nexus 7 right here. And the other one is the Kindle Fire HD, which, yeah, it has Android 4.0 ice cream sandwich underneath, though you'd never know it because it's customized with Amazon's Carousel UI. Which one is better for you? We're going to find out now. So here we have two 7-inch tablets, the same screen resolution, 1280 by 800, same starting price, $199. For $199 with the Nexus 7 you get 8 gigs of storage, and you get 16 gigs with the Kindle Fire HD. Storage mavens, there's a little win for you there. For $249 you can get a 16 gig Nexus 7, and for $249 you can get a 32 gig Kindle Fire HD. Neither of these has SD card slots of any kind, so there's no storage expansion there. So with both of them, get as much as you think you're going to need in the first place. Neither of them out of the box has USB host. That means being able to do things like plug in USB flash drives with a dongle adapter. However, if you root the Nexus, and well, that's the spirit of the Nexus there, you got to go ahead and root it, right? It's for you techie types. Then you can install a mass storage USB driver and use USB flash drives for a little bit of extension of your storage. If you don't mind having a little tail hanging out the bottom being the dongle adapter and the flash drive. Now when it comes to horsepower, there's a big difference here, and that's a big selling point for probably a lot of you, especially you power users. You get a quad-core NVIDIA Tegra 3 CPU here at 1.3 gigahertz. Here we have a dual-core TI OMAP clocked at 1.2 gigahertz. Now, well, more cores does mean faster here, and on synthetic benchmarks like Quadrant, we saw a score of 2174 on the Kindle Fire HD versus 3600 on the Nexus 7. Now, some quad cores can go as high as almost 5,000, but clearly they're not going to clock the chip too much here. It's a small package. They don't want to kill the smaller battery in it, but there it is. For pure horsepower, you're definitely going to get more out of the Nexus 7. Likewise, for GL Benchmark, which measures graphics performance, we saw 64 FIPS for the Nexus 7 versus 33 FIPS on the Kindle Fire HD. Now, both of these guys are capable of playing games that are available on their respective markets. That's the Google Play Store on the Nexus 7 and the Amazon App Store for the Kindle Fire HD. So it doesn't mean, oh, this thing stinks for games or something like that. It's certainly capable enough, but if you're future looking and if you intend this as a power user might to run the most challenging games on it, well, you're going to want the Nexus. But before we go further into all these nice technical details about the products, let me say that this should be a really easy decision for lots of you out there. And I know those of you who are our more technical audience are thinking, oh, Nexus 7 wins, Kindle Fire HD sucks. No, it really doesn't. It's for two different kinds of people. Now, there are some crossover people who want both of these things, but the Nexus 7 really is for the power user. That's the spirit of the Nexus, the Google Pure Experience device. You don't get a whole lot of tech support, you don't get a whole lot of big marketing around the product necessarily, but what you get is really good horsepower, a fairly open environment, and that means it's pretty easy to root this thing. It's very easy to put custom ROMs on, and those of you who know what that means, well, you know what that means, and that's exciting to you. The other target segment for the Kindle Fire HD probably doesn't know root from ROMs. So while you've got a world of customizable possibilities here and full access to every Google service and every Google application, the YouTube player, the Gmail app, Maps, navigation, Google+, you name it, all that stuff's on there, that is not on the Kindle Fire because it's a highly customized device, and Amazon has their own services that they want to sell you. And you know Amazon, they like to sell stuff, don't they? So as much as the Nexus 7 is a real boon for those of you who are on a tight budget, but you want an all general purpose Android tablet, well, the Amazon Kindle Fire HD is a real boon for those of you who aren't so technical or who are really into Amazon services. And obviously there's a lot of people out there who are. You have a lot of Kindle books. Maybe you're using Amazon's music store. You are Prime members, so you get those free streaming movies and TV shows. Hard to beat that. Plus there are ones that you can rent as well if they're not available for free on Prime. So there's a whole lot of services there, and Amazon has a very decent app store. It doesn't have all the apps that the Google Play Store does, but it has quite a wide selection. You'll get the staples that most of us want. Flickster, IMDb, Netflix is on there, Hulu Plus, Evernote, Office Suites, that kind of thing. However, for those of us, again, who are more techie, I'll tell you, things like Quadrant and GL Benchmark, they are not on the App Store. So you'll find things that certainly are missing from the Amazon App Store. So the Kindle Fire HD excellent for your average, not so technical consumer who just wants a really easy way to consume all that content and services. Now you can sideload your own movies, your own books, and all that stuff on either of these devices. So if you've got your own content that doesn't come from Amazon or Google, for example, no problem, you can do that as well. Now what about the crossover people? And I would even put myself in that category. I'm an Amazon Prime member, I have Kindle books, but I also want a powerful tablet that I can browse the web with, get my email, do that sort of thing. That's where the Fire starts to have some appeal, and it starts to cause a little bit of difficulty here if you try and decide between the two of them. If you want to avail yourself of all of Amazon's nice services and shopping possibilities on the Nexus 7, you can install the Kindle application to get books, for example. There is no real equivalent for Prime videos, especially because there's no Adobe Flash player on Jelly Bean, Android OS 4.1. Now you can download Firefox Beta and sideload, for you more geeky people again, Flash player and try to load up Amazon Prime in the Flash player that's used for desktop computers, but you get the idea. Some things just don't really work as easily, let alone as simply turnkey as they do on the Kindle Fire. So you're looking at the Kindle Fire right here, and I'll show you what I mean. Right now we're in apps, we go back to home. You want to watch videos? Well, look at that very simplified interface. You have shop, games, books, music, video. You want to look at a video, you want to start playing a video, it's going to load all this stuff here. You can even save your place in videos that you're watching. They make it very easy to do that kind of thing. Now the beauty with the Nexus is, of course, you can have both Kindle and Nook and the Sony Reader app on here, all those things very easily because they're all available for you on the Google Play Store. Of course, the Nook app is not going to be on Amazon's App Store, is it? So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to find the Nook app somewhere else and sideload it. So it takes a little bit more technical expertise, which probably is a little counter to what some people who buy the Kindle Fire are, not so technical. But again, there are crossover people like me, and those things can be done. You can sideload apps to your heart's content. In fact, we've sideloaded the YouTube player on here. Let's take a look at our apps for a minute. And I'll show you a bunch of apps that you normally won't find. Now if we take a look here, you see I have the Nook app, I've sideloaded Chrome, I've got the YouTube player on board here too. So I didn't have to root to do that. You can just sideload these if you have a little bit of technical expertise. But even better news, guess what? The wonderful folks at XDA Developers have already found a way to pretty easily root your Kindle Fire HD. And that means you can do things like put the Google Play Store on it for, well, easier access to applications. Getting back down to specs and features, both of these guys have front video chat cameras. It's up here. The Nexus 7 is meant to be used primarily in portrait mode. The home screen only runs in portrait mode, but other things like videos and all that stuff, don't worry, it runs in landscape mode. But we've got our video chat camera here. Here on the Kindle Fire, which is actually interestingly designed more to be held in landscape mode, it's on the side. Both of these do a decent job. The video camera on the Kindle is actually surprisingly good though, and I would give it the edge for having so much sharper video. Really good speakers also, and microphone. And speaking of the speakers, those of you who have owned or tested out Nexus know the speakers are pretty mediocre on the Nexus, whereas Amazon really amped it up with the stereo speakers they put on the back of the Kindle Fire HD. Nice big stereo speakers back here, good separation, very loud, Dolby sound. So from watching movies and listening to music without putting headphones on or using speakers, Kindle Fire wins. When it comes to Wi-Fi, Jeff Bezos from Amazon made a big deal about the fact that the Kindle Fire HD has dual band Wi-Fi with MIMO. Now MIMO is a technology that's only going to work if your router supports MIMO, so well, they don't mention that, and you may not have a router that supports it, and that just allows for synchronous communications back and forth over the wireless network. Not to get too technical there, but it is dual band, and that's nice. That means you have both the standard 2.4 gigahertz band and the 5 gigahertz band. 5 gigahertz tends to be less crowded, so often you can get better throughput on that. But overall, in terms of just measuring signal strength using Wi-Fi analyzer and downloading some test files, the Kindle Fire HD does have better Wi-Fi than the Nexus 7. Not to say that the Nexus 7 stinks. It's not a problem child or anything like that, but stronger Wi-Fi on the Kindle. In terms of battery life, both of these run quite a long time, and they have almost identical capacity batteries, close to 4,400 milliamps on the Nexus 7 and at 4,400 milliamps on the Kindle Fire HD. So far, we're getting about an hour more runtime out of the Kindle Fire HD, and that's likely due to the slower CPU that's used there. So having a slow CPU is, generally speaking, only good when it comes to battery life. When it comes to design, this really depends on what you want. Personally, I think the Nexus 7 is the more attractive looking device. They're exactly the same thickness, but honestly, it looks thinner than Nexus 7. It's got a little bit more of an elegant and slim design. ASUS, who makes the tablet, did a nice job with that. We have a soft touch rubber back, we have tapered sides, a nice little metal ring around it, and a fairly narrow bezel, so that makes it look more modern. When we look at the Kindle Fire, we see a giant bezel. Now that makes it look old-fashioned and a little clunkier than it really is, but the wide bezel is actually there for a reason. It's because folks say that they want a bigger bezel and they hold this like a book to read. It does make the device a little bit wider, though, than the Nexus, and we'll show you, superimpose how they look there. So that depends on you. Do you find a wide bezel like a really handy thing? Well, it's an advantage for you. Do you think it looks ugly? Then it ain't for you. From the side view, it also has a taper, though it's a little less elegant looking, shall we say, than the Nexus. So it doesn't make it look quite as slim. And we have a soft touch back here as well. So similar design concept, really. In terms of build quality, they're both pretty solid. The Kindle Fire feels a little bit more built like a tank, I'll say that, because it's just, well, it feels strong and hefty. Some folks have had problem with their Nexus devices with the screen lifting in a corner. We haven't had that problem, honestly. It's been fine. Like any consumer tablet, I really wouldn't want to drop either of these, to tell you the truth. Now, if we put them on top of each other, you'll see the difference for 7-inch tablets is quite surprising. The Nexus 7 is a little bit taller, much more of a rectangular format, and the Kindle is wider, so it looks almost like a 4x3 format device, but it's not. And here's our side comparison for thickness. Now, in terms of ports and expansion, you would think the Nexus would win as the kind of more general purpose tablet. Well, it's a little this, a little of that. The Kindle Fire has micro HDMI out. That's something that the Nexus 7 lacks. And we have our standard micro USB port here for transferring files to and from the tablet and charging it. By the way, a charger comes in the box with the Nexus 7, does not come in the box with the Kindle Fire. And here we have our volume controls and our power button. And the headphone combo mic jack. And both these have Bluetooth that work with A2DP and work with headsets. Now we look around at the Nexus 7, we see our micro USB port here, our headphone jack, pretty minimalist stuff. There's our power and our volume controls. Now micro HDMI, obviously, neither of them again has an SD or micro SD card slot. But this guy, as I said, all you have to do is root it and load a driver and you do get USB host. So which is more important to you, USB host or micro HDMI? That'll help you pick which is which here for you. Now for web browsing, we're showing you the browser that you get with the Kindle Fire HD. That's Amazon's Silk browser. We have turned off the caching feature that's supposed to speed things up because we found that, well, it actually doesn't, Amazon's caching service. But other than that, it's a fine browser. It's based on Chrome. And on the Nexus 7, well, you get Chrome. That's what the default browser is. Now we have Chrome loaded on the Kindle Fire HD as well, but we're not doing a, well, browser comparison. We're just showing what you're going to get out of the box. So, in theory, they have the same resolution, they're the same screen size, you should see the same amount of stuff, but that really depends on how much stuff they put around the screen here too, and the way they handle rendering. And you can see, you actually get a little bit more on screen with the Kindle Fire HD. That's interesting. It's not a huge amount more, it's not the biggest deal, but something to note there. Scrolling speeds on both of these are fine. Neither of these comes with Adobe Flash. As you probably know by now, Adobe Flash was taken off the Google Play market on August 15th because Adobe does not want to do any more mobile Flash development. You can, however, go to Adobe's website and find Flash there. It might be a little hidden, but do a search for it and you will find it, and you can sideload it. Now, with the Nexus 7, if you sideload it, no problem there, but it's not going to work with Chrome because Chrome does not work with Adobe Flash at all, so you're going to have to download Firefox Beta. Likewise, because this guy is built on Chromium engine, Flash is not going to work. You're going to have to find Firefox and Beta and put it on this guy too. But both of them get the job done. Both of them are actually pretty quick. Despite the much faster CPU on the Nexus 7, the Kindle Fire manages to do a pretty good job. Nexus 7 in general is the fastest 7-inch Android tablet on the market though, so it's always going to have a little bit of a speed edge there, but Kindle Fire HD is much improved over the first generation Kindle, which was kind of a slug and a pig at web browsing. So that's the Google Nexus 7 made by ASUS versus the Amazon Kindle Fire HD, both 7-inch devices, both based on Android, pure, hearty Android Jelly Bean 4.1 here, Android 4.0 ice cream sandwich on this one, much covered over, much disguised, very different from your standard Android experience on the Kindle Fire HD. And again, I would say it really depends on what kind of device you're looking for. For $199, you got something that is awesome for you content consumption types right here, especially if you're Amazon Kindle type consumption types. You've got Kindle books, you've got Kindle magazines, you've got Amazon MP3 Store, you've got Amazon App Store for a kind of vetted, safe experience for those of you who are afraid of the Google Play Store, which you really shouldn't be, but it's another story. And you've got Amazon Prime Videos and Amazon Instant Videos. With the Google Nexus 7, you've got a pure experience. You've got, again, one of the fastest Android tablets experientially, even if it's not the fastest on benchmarks among some of the other Tegra 3 tablets. It's affordable, it's powerful, it's rootable, it has a GPS. You're not going to get a GPS in the Kindle Fire HD 7-inch. You'll get Wi-Fi triangulation for your location, which might pinpoint you pretty well, especially in more urban and dense suburban locations, but if you're out in the sticks, it won't do you very much good. And of course on the Nexus 7 you have full access to all of Google's services, the Google Play Store, YouTube Player, Gmail, Maps, Navigation, Google+, Google Talk, you know, all that good stuff. So which is it you want? Let that be your guide. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to watch our video reviews of both of these devices, read our written reviews, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.